Welcome to Hazel Art Supply at Cedar Springs. My name is Samantha and we're going to be discussing handmade papers. So all of our handmade papers come from the same company. It's called Black Ink Papers, or Graphic Products Papers, their actual company name. They have papers made all around the world, from Mexico to Taiwan. So this is where they live, in our store. People use them for a lot of different purposes. You can use them for scrapbooking or card making, any kind of paper arts. People use them to do watercolor on top of, or oil painting on top of, if you gesso it, or acrylic painting or mixed media. Some people just take it and they put it in a frame and then they just display it in their house like that. Some people, they put it on windows, like instead of just butcher paper, putting it on a window is a really great visual, like appealing thing. I personally use it for card making because one sheet of this can make like 30 cards, depending on how you're using it. If you're using like little pieces, or if you're using like for the entire card. But you can use it for so many different things. Some of these papers actually are slightly acidic, like this paper. It's called oil paper, amala. This paper is actually highly acidic, and it smells strange. Like it smells sour. So that paper is not very good to use with archival situations unless you put a Krylon spray product on it called Make It Acid Free, which I usually recommend for maybe like half of these papers. And if you don't know, and if you want to know if that's very important to you, whether this paper is acid free or not, they have a website called gpcpapers.com. And on that website, you can look at every single paper they make. Not discontinued papers, unfortunately, but you can look at papers that they're currently making, and it will tell you what the pH of that paper is. I like to arrange these papers by like their material. Some of them are made with like rice, like the unryu. They're made with rice, and some of them are made with mango leaves. It's wild the kind of stuff that these are made with. Some of them are made with like bamboo wood, like this one. It's made with planks of bamboo wood. It's called banana plank. I think it's one of our favorites. Most people, like we sell a lot of this paper. Most people love it. It's very breakable, so you have to be careful, but it's very cool at the same time. We have some papers that look like, they look kind of like stone. Like we have this one. It's called travertine. I don't think it's acid free, but it's got this very cool texture to it. It's like travertine, the stone. Yeah. It's very cool. My personal favorite papers out of this entire collection is this stuff. It's called amate bark, and there's also like a woven amate, and they also make one that's circular. It's called circulose. It's this one. I don't know how they make it, but it's got a very it's a very smooth texture, but it's very thick and it's really small. It's really great if you like put pressed flowers on it. It's awesome for that because it's just got this like really natural coloring. But they also have like crazy colored ones. They have crazy colored ones, like this rainbow one. I think this is the coolest paper we have. Again, I have no idea how it's made, but it's really cool. All of the papers that we stock and then some are kept in this binder right here. It's like a big catalog of black ink papers, and we keep little samples in it. So if you're looking for something that we don't have, this binder will totally help you out. Now, we do have some papers in there that they don't make anymore, but that's just the nature of black ink. We have some papers that are from Italy. They're really fantastic. They're like, I don't know, they're very flowery and gold. They have a lot of gold. All of these guys, like this one, this Venetian one, I love this one. This is like one of my favorite papers. It's just so pretty. It's like a wallpaper. You could actually use this as wallpaper. I have before. It's just so pretty. It has just so many nice colors on it. The only thing about these is that they're very expensive, but I think it's because they're hand brushed. I think that's the reasoning. Originally, I think they're hand brushed and then they're copied over and over again. But they have like gold on them, and I think that's why they would be so expensive. We also have some traditional Japanese printing papers called unryu. And most of our white unryu is over there with the white papers. And we specifically sell those to like people who are doing Japanese or Chinese calligraphy with like the bamboo brushes and all that. So you can do calligraphy on those. They have these silver and gold strings that run through some of them. And then most of them have just a string look that's the same color as the rest of the paper. So we have those papers in a lot of different colors, like green and blue. On the other side, we've got this green down here too. I could talk a little bit about those marbled papers. So I actually know how these marbled papers are made. They have this big vat of algae, and they put this paint. I think they probably use like a water-based paint, and they like toss this paint on the surface of this algae, and it sticks to the surface. It doesn't go underneath the surface because the algae creates like this barrier. Like in the middle of the water, so paint would stay on top of it. And then they use this barrel, this big barrel, and they roll it across the surface of the water with the paper on it to like get the paint onto the paper. And then they have to rinse it off afterwards. It's very interesting. I've actually done that myself. It's very cool. But you can do that I think they do that multiple times with these to give it that like multiple colored effect, because this one has like black and gold marble on it. In India, they make mostly screen printed papers. So they all have like a recurring pattern on them, and those would be over here. Like this is probably my favorite. This one. So they just screen print patterns onto these pieces of woven papers, and it almost feels like cloth. But almost all of these are from Italy, and they're not Italy. Almost all of them are from India. They're very cool. But I don't know that India does a whole lot of other types of paper. Oh, we have these cool papers that are iridescent. So depending on what angle you're looking at them, they're a different color. I like to call it mermaid paper. A lot of people buy these. These are super, super popular because they're just so fun. They come in a bunch of colors too, like gold, bright raspberry. One of my favorite papers, the style of papers, is called Lakta. I don't know exactly how these are made or what they're made from, but they have these awesome edges that are just super jagged, and they're all kind of the same in their size. They don't have like straight edges, they're kind of curved. And they can come like with screen prints on them, they can come printed, they can come modeled. Like there's this one called Pinto that's like gray and brown and white, and it's kind of spotty. And these papers are really awesome for just any purpose because they've got this very smooth texture. So you can draw on them. They're not great for erasing on, but most of these aren't. You can draw on them and you can paint on them, and they're very colorful. They come in all kinds of colors, and they're very vibrant. They're just the coolest, most utilitarian, but also most beautiful at the same time. What is that? Art Deco, kind of. That's my favorite style of paper. So we have this new kind. It's a momi. I don't know what that exactly means, but it's like sheer. It's called sheer watercolor momi, and it comes in like 3 different colors, but it kind of feels like fabric when you're working with it. So this is really great for collage because you can fold it and bend it over itself, and it comes back and it's just fine. It also has like a pre-wrinkle to it, so if you mess it up, you haven't messed it up. So it's very easy to work with, and it just feels like fabric when you're working with it. It's probably one of my favorite new papers they've come out with. So one of our most interesting papers that's white, I think, is called Surf. It's actually rayon. It's not really paper, so it's actually cloth. This paper is super interesting because it's got this non-woven texture, but you can print with it. So you can run this paper through a printer, and what it does is a very interesting thing. Of course, you have to like tape it down a little bit, but what it does is you run it through the printer and you've got this image on it. But once you pick the paper up off of your lower paper that you have to put underneath it, you've got what's called a ghost image. So it's like it takes the texture of the paper, but you get this sort of light image of what you've printed underneath it. So you can do like you can print one image, but you have 2, you know? It's very, very, very cool. This is probably my favorite of all of them. This paper series is really cool. It's called Garden. So Garden series has either like embossed papers or papers with pieces of like flowers and leaves embedded in it. So this one is one of the only ones we have left. It's called rain tree leaves. I don't know what a rain tree is, but I know it's in this paper. So they actually, like, when they're making the paper, with all the paper pulp and whatnot, they throw like pieces of this rain tree into the paper. And it's very cool. It's very cool. So like little sticks and leaves are all up in this piece of paper. It's awesome. And it comes in, there's another one over here that just has like a cool seed flower. So it's got like these crazy looking flowers all over in it. So I think they put this on the top and then just barely coat it with the paper pulp just to keep it down, which is very cool. I feel like the process of making paper is super experimental. And because of that, the kinds of paper you're going to find in here, it's going to change every time I order it. Every time it comes in, it's different because the way that they make it is not consistent. But that's a good thing. You don't want it to be consistent because they're all special and they're all their own type of paper. They're all their own thing. And they're all, you know, they all have their own use and purpose, I think. I love this one. I know. They're very cool. I don't even know how they make these. These are the embossed ones. So it's like the paper pulp is sticking out of the surface of the paper in these textures. I have no idea how they make that happen, but it's very cool, and it's got this really, really thick feeling to it. I know most of the people that I know that purchase this paper, they just hang it by itself in a frame because it's so cool, just by itself. And I don't blame them for doing that. I would do it too. Because it's got its own, it's got its own edge. It's kind of like it's got its own frame to it on the outside. And I think that's awesome. So I have all these papers organized by which type they go with. Not only can you use these papers for art-related things, you can also use them to wrap presents. So we actually have like Christmas-themed papers from India. I got them because they're really cute, but they're also really silly. You can't really use them most of the year, but they're really high-quality wrapping paper. They're expensive wrapping paper. So if you have like a premium gift, this is the paper you want.